What's up guys, my name is Irina and welcome back to my channel where I review everything tech. In today's video, I want to talk about the OnePlus 70 Pro McLaren edition. I've been using this phone for about 2 months now. I really loved its predecessor, the OnePlus 7 Pro, so the whole experience with the 70 Pro McLaren has been quite similar and I love it. However, I've had pretty much mixed feelings about this phone and let me start from the beginning. Let's first talk about the display of this phone. We have a beautiful 6.67-inch AMOLED display, just like on its predecessor, the OnePlus 7 Pro. No notch, tiny bezels, curved edges. When it comes to design, it really comes to personal preferences, but to me, this display is perfect. When it comes to brightness, the display on the 70 Pro McLaren is not the brightest I've ever seen. It's obviously dimmer than, say, the iPhone 11 Pro Max. However, using this phone on a daily basis, I've never felt like the brightness of this display is not enough for me. I usually have my McLaren at about 50 to 70% brightness, depending on what I'm doing on my phone. I rarely keep any device at max brightness, this way it just feels more comfortable for my eyes. But let's do a quick test. I'll put here the iPhone 11 Pro Max and the Google Pixel 4 XL side by side and see how these three phones compare when it comes to brightness. Usually my camera is able to pick up this kind of difference and let's hope it will work this time as well. So let's start with 50% brightness. And at this point, as you can see, the 70 Pro McLaren appears to be the brightest. And let's make it 100%. And the iPhone 11 Pro Max is the winner here. It looks like the Pixel 4 XL takes the second prize in this test. However, I guess this is the reason why I can easily live with just 50% of brightness on the 70 Pro McLaren, because at 50% it's brighter than the other phones I use. So yeah, the OnePlus 70 Pro doesn't have the brightest display, which is not a problem for me, but keep it in mind if max brightness might be important for you. Yes, this phone has a 90Hz refresh rate display, just like its predecessor, the 7 Pro, and maybe this is not the most important thing in a phone, but I definitely feel the difference between 60 and 90 Hz, and I love to have this feature on my 70 Pro McLaren. Also, it's important to mention that the display on this phone is extremely sharp. The QHD Plus resolution with high pixel density makes this display look very precise and sharp, and consequently the 70 Pro McLaren provides an amazing viewing experience. Just before I started doing the camera test with this phone, I decided to get the screen protector, because the whole process is usually pretty crazy, especially when I compare cameras of 3 phones at the same time. I got this pack of 2 on Amazon, and this screen protector seemed great. It sat perfectly at the edges. Overall, the display was very responsive, but the fingerprint unlock stopped working even after resetting my fingerprints, so unfortunately I had to get rid of that. I gave it another shot and used the second screen protector from the pack, but the whole situation was the same. So I temporarily gave up on the idea of having a screen protector on this phone, but just keep my experience in mind when choosing a screen protector for yourself. Next, let's talk about the battery of this phone. When it comes to charging, it takes just 1 hour to charge this phone from 0% to 100. I did the charging test in my 70 Pro McLaren unboxing video, check it out if you haven't seen it already, and I was really impressed by how fast it charges. We have a 4085 mAh battery on this phone. We also get a Warp Charge 30T power adapter in the box with the 70 Pro McLaren. The design of this charger still makes me smile every time I use it. It looks so nice. Well, I always appreciate these kind of details. When it comes to battery life, unfortunately, I cannot say that my experience with this phone has been outstanding. Yes, the 70 Pro McLaren lasts me all day with moderate use. However, when I go a little hotter on this phone, the battery status bar is just melting down really fast. Of course, to save your battery life, you could switch your display to 60 Hz and turn off the QHD Plus resolution. However, it doesn't seem reasonable to me, since what's the point of getting this phone then, if you're not gonna use its best features? Another thing you could do to save your battery life, and this is not applicable to those of you who have the non-5G McLaren, well, you could disable the 5G in the preferred network type settings. It feels like I get hours of extra battery life when I run on 4G. And speaking of 5G, at the moment in the US, you can only get the 70 Pro 5G McLaren edition exclusively at T-Mobile. You probably already heard that T-Mobile started building and implementing its 5G network with low-band signal across the US, with a plan to fill in more areas with mid-band wave and eventually fill in the gaps with high-band millimeter wave. Obviously, it's a process and they're gonna build up the network gradually. So, of course, it'll take years to build this high-band 5G coverage to see those crazy download and upload speeds. However, I have to admit that I have a 5G connection almost everywhere in New York City. It's quite reliable, and at the moment, as you can see, I got slightly faster speeds with 5G than with 4G depending on the area. So despite the fact that 5G is not completely ready yet, you could still notice some improvements in the internet speeds. And next, let's talk about the biometrics and security features on the 70 Pro McLaren. We have the face unlock and the fingerprint scanner on this phone. Speaking of the face unlock, it works just like on the OnePlus 7 Pro. The whole process is implemented by the pop-up front-facing camera. I haven't noticed any difference or any particular improvement in the face unlock on the McLaren. It feels the same. It's reliable and pretty fast. I've never experienced any lag or other problems with the Face ID on my unit from the first day of using this phone. When it comes to the fingerprint unlock, we have the same in-display fingerprint sensor on the McLaren, just like on its predecessor, the OnePlus 7 Pro. This fingerprint sensor is faster than the similar one from the previous model, the OnePlus 6T, and from my experience, it's quite reliable. Now let's talk about the speakers of the 70 Pro McLaren. We have stereo speakers on this phone. One speaker is down here on the right side, and another one is the in-display speaker right here. They're pretty loud, the sound quality is really good. Also, the 70 Pro McLaren supports Dolby Atmos, which you can really feel while watching movies. Next, let's talk about the cameras of this phone. We have a triple camera on the 70 Pro McLaren, including telephoto and ultra-wide camera. By the way, you can get pretty amazing ultra-wide photos from the McLaren. You get a new feature on this phone called Super Macro, so you can get macro shots from super short distance. Portrait, nightscape. By the way, the nightscape mode is really good on this phone. You could get really beautiful night shots. Pro mode, where you can manually change the camera settings, time-lapse, panorama, slow motion. Well, these modes are pretty basic. I already have very comprehensive camera comparison videos on my channel featuring the OnePlus 70 Pro McLaren. Check out the links in the description. I honestly cannot call the OnePlus cameras the greatest I've ever tested. To me, they often lack consistency. However, I definitely see the progress through these years, and I notice all the things the OnePlus does to improve the camera performance. I feel like the OnePlus is always listening to their customers, which I believe will ultimately result in better products. We have 12 GB of RAM and 256 GB of storage on the 70 Pro McLaren. It's powered by Snapdragon 855 Plus. It runs Oxygen OS. I think it's needless to say that this phone feels super fast. The 70 Pro McLaren is a beast. By the way, I heard many people complaining about overheating, but I haven't experienced such an issue on my unit. I usually don't do benchmark tests on my channel, but some of you guys were curious, so why not? Let's do it! I'm gonna use the Antutu Benchmark app. To make it more fun, let's compare it with the Google Pixel 4 XL and the iPhone 11 Pro Max. Well, the OnePlus looks really good, as expected. It has an overall score of almost 500,000. The iPhone 11 Pro Max has a slightly better result in terms of CPU and GPU, and of course, the OnePlus has a better score when it comes to memory. At the moment, you can get the OnePlus 70 Pro 5G McLaren edition for $900 before tax. So these are my thoughts on this phone. I hope this video was helpful if you're thinking about getting the OnePlus 7T Pro McLaren edition. I'm really curious to know what features are the most important to you when it comes to picking yourself a new smartphone. Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching this video, guys, and see you in the next one.